Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Spoiled Rotten.
With Dan.
And I'm Daniel. This is great. We are really firing on all cylinders here, even though I have a weird voice because my nose is all stuffy.
That's all right.
We are...
You can do the Bane voice if it makes you feel better about that.
Yeah, I would
In
love...
the entire podcast,
no,
right?
No, that would not make anyone feel better.
No, that would make me feel better.
Oh, okay, then you do it.
No, and of course you're listening to Spoiled Rotten on hosted on That Shelf.
That's right.
We're launching in today. We're gonna have a little bit more of a compact episode for you all, but we're really excited for this episode.
Yeah, so usually we talk about the news and we just have wild conjecture, and then we review something. Today it's going to be Daredevil Season 3, as promised.
Correct.
And here we go with the news.
So right off the bat, there is, of course, the follow-up to Avatar. So the 4 sequels to Avatar. So they're going to making this a 5-movie saga.
Too many.
I don't know, like, when I rewatch Avatar, it's not that rewatchable.
Good for you. Do people rewatch Avatar?
When I've seen it, it's not that rewatchable. But
yeah.
What the news is that the 4 titles have been revealed. So the titles are Avatar 2 or Avatar: The Way of Water, and that
we did know that he was
going to
building cameras for water.
Yeah,
or whatever.
for sure. Avatar: The Seed Bearer. So I think we're going to get back into the the tree canopy kind of stuff. Avatar: The Tulkun Rider, which is
we've seen them ride those.
Exactly.
It sounds like he's just listing things that happened in the first movie.
Yeah, and Avatar: The Quest of Ewa. I don't know who.
Oh man, Ewoks! I'm so excited for Ewoks.
So they're taking the Star Wars Return of the Jedi Ewok thing. No, it's just I feel like there's
4 of them. They filmed 2 of them. I know of.
Yeah,
or at least Sigourney Weaver has finished.
Yes,
for 2 of them.
She's done quite a bit already. So that makes me think like, oh, she might be killed off pretty soon.
Or they just haven't started the other 2.
Yeah, and those release dates are December 2020 for Avatar 2. That's The Way of Water. Avatar 3, The Seed Bearer, is 2021.
If I were them, it would just be December 20th, December 21st.
I know, right? The Tulkun Rider, which is 4, is 2024, and The Quest of Ewa is Avatar 5 on December 2025. So, I mean,
if we're all still alive, we will be talking about that.
Yep. We don't know. The rapture might come.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, that's Avatar stuff, and hopefully they can build off that franchise to be like, oh, it's more than just Pocahontas.
Yeah, everyone said Pocahontas, Fern Gully.
It's pretty accurate.
It was just. I thought it was nice and innovative in terms of 3D.
That's exactly it. It was the first 3D movie that I genuinely enjoyed, and that's what sticks in my mind the most. It was visually stunning, and
I knew I would never I saw it multiple times in theaters. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, I feel like this. I'm not going to care about this not in a 3D theater, and I've stuck to that. So I don't like making fun of it, but I also just am like, my assumption is when this second one comes out, it will do something that people talk about because James Cameron doesn't really have misses. Like most of his movies get talked about for some reason or another, and they have their fans.
He does something very innovative for the majority of his movies, and
he's Canadian, so that's good.
Yeah,
right?
and he's fantastic Canadian,
but apparently an asshole. But I mean,
yeah,
I think that just comes with his drive and everything.
But I mean, like people like what's his face, the guy from Apple, who's quite an asshole,
Tim Cook.
No,
I'm joking. I know Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs,
all right.
Yeah, he's quite an asshole. But we'll see what happens there.
So not necessarily something I'm looking for, but I also feel like probably will be interesting when it comes out.
You know what?
Because he's put enough effort into it.
Yeah, I think what's going to be very, very interesting is going to be the comparison of the water scenes between Aquaman and Avatar, because obviously Avatar is going to improve so much more on it, but to kind of see what that goes to. But if there is an Aquaman 2, if they're going to let's use the James Cameron cameras and everything like that instead.
I think that's the idea, is that he sets trends and then people follow them, and then we just get used to it, and then he has to figure out a way to stand out again. That's
he is
the
a
cycle.
trendsetter, baby.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Next is the first sign that Star Wars is listening to people and not putting out a bunch of movies people don't want. Is they are not moving forward with the James Mangold Boba Fett movie at this time. So probably never. But.
What I've heard is they've completely axed it. And based on the reports that I've read about the story that they had, good. I don't want that movie. What they were going to do was basically have that scene in Empire where they're on this, the Star Destroyer with Bosk, IG-88, all the other bounty hunters, and Boba Fett, and make that whole movie about that hunt for Han Solo. So
interesting.
That would have been terrible to me. Absolutely terrible. Because
I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I'm just like, why would you do that? I'm more interested in seeing Boba Fett after Jango was dead and then transforming into Boba Fett. Because the whole hunt for Han Solo, we know where it begins, we know where it ends already. So you're filling that gap, and it's not like a Rogue One situation where
I hope it's not
so little
that's what James Mangold wanted to do, but just that's what they wanted to do, and he was like, I'm not doing that.
I genuinely hope so, because I've expected a lot from Mangold after Logan. But,
yeah. They are doing the Jon Favreau show, which sounds good.
Yes,
the Mandalorian not set. It's after
Boba
Fett.
episode 6.
So it's its own thing, and the list of directors is great. Taika Waititi, Bryce Dallas Howard. Is Ava DuVernay about it? I don't remember. There's some really cool names.
There's some great
in terms of directors,
with that, and they're spending lots of money on that. And to be perfectly honest, I feel like the character of Boba Fett is better explored through a long version format, like a television show in the 10.
Well, yeah, it's not Boba Fett though.
No, I know, but like the Mandalorians in general, like that, exploring that race, that culture, the warriors, and everything like that. That's something I've always wanted. And if they were going to be like, oh, I want a Boba Fett movie, the idea that I would have liked for them to explore was Jango. He's now orphaned, but he needs to find a way to earn his Mandalorian armor, and then go to Mandalore and just kind of figure out what that culture is, and through those trials and all that kind of stuff, and then explore through the flashbacks of the Mandalorian War what that armor means to his people and his tribe and all that kind of stuff, to really flesh out that side of the culture. I thought that would have been cool, but instead they're going to be like, no, he's a fully formed character that's not going to develop at all. And
in the movie.
In the movie that they pitched. I'm like, good, I don't want to watch that movie. It would have been dumb. So, I mean, it's not that there's no love for Boba Fett, it's just that what they pitched
sounds bad.
It sounds bad. It just seems like they're, again... and this is to Kathleen Kennedy's...
It seems about as interesting as Rogue One sounds on paper.
It does. But
so maybe they could have done something.
They could have done, but it seems like another Han Solo.
Han Solo, they actually tried to be like, no, we're going to show you how this guy changed into the Han Solo you love, whereas the Boba Fett story you're telling me about seems like exactly like Rogue One, of like, no, you already know what the outcome is. We're just showing you the specifics of this thing, which was what Rogue One was. No character development, doesn't matter.
True.
That was kind of one of my disappointments with the movie, is that I didn't really care about the characters, because they didn't really...
I cared about the characters. I mean, looking back at it now, though, there's these points that have been raised recently in a podcast I've been listening to, and I'm like, that's a good point. The first Asian character in Star Wars ever was a blind monk, and it's just like, oh, let's lean into more of those stereotypes there.
What's his face wasn't blind or a monk?
Yeah,
he's his bodyguard. He was cool.
That was really cool. So I like that contrast, but it's just like the people you remember are the people that use the Force, and he was able to use the Force a little bit. So it's just like, oh, because the other dude, he just ends up being, oh, you're just a guy that shoots people with a
No, we liked him.
Gun.
Listen back to our episode. We liked him. We thought about him.
I like him. Don't get me wrong. It's building those stereotypes.
But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. That it was a diverse cast, but it lacked in some areas.
Correct. So having Rose, as much as people hate Rose, was a refreshing thing for me to see.
And boy, do they hate her.
They do hate her quite a bit.
That sucks for her.
I don't hate her. I'm just indifferent towards her.
I don't think it really matters if I hate her or don't like her. Yeah. I just think if there was a period of women being bullied off of social media. That was
totally. Daisy
that was
Ridley's
rough.
off. Thanks for that, guys.
Daisy Ridley, Ruby Rose, Kelly Marie Tran. Like,
yeah, what the hell? Like, I love.
I think the
Ruby
woman
Rose is still on, isn't she?
No, she left because she got
Because
cast
of the-
as Batwoman, and everyone's like,
And
"What the hell?"
That was ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah.
The criticism was she's not gay enough.
Yeah, well,
to
that
play
because it
Batwoman.
started with she's not gay,
What
and
the
then
hell?
she was like, "Yes, I am,"
She is.
and then I guess people were like backed into a corner, and they're like, "Whoa, not gay enough."
She's not gay enough. She's not like a gold star lesbian.
Right,
It's like,
and,
what the hell are you talking about, man? Leave that shit alone.
I think the woman who plays Starfire in Titans, she got bullied. I don't know if she's off.
Well, she got bullied for the costume.
No,
more
it
than
became
anything.
racial.
It did.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah.
See,
none
all
of
the
these
comments
none of these things
yeah.
were like actually well thought out things. It was, hey, you are a minority. I am just gonna dump on you.
Shit
and
on
also,
you.
I don't like the.
Yeah. So, because the thing is, like, I don't know if Titans is out. I have really not.
is.
It is, right? I really
They're like
haven't
4 episodes in.
seen it, but
Technically, we shouldn't be able to see it because we're in Canada and it's only in the
correct.
States.
But one of the things about Titans is after they launched, I think their episode or like the show writers or show runners promised, like, yes, you will see Beast Boy develop and Starfire will get her costume,
which is
toward
what
the
I
end.
thought beforehand. As
I
well.
didn't know. I didn't really care. I didn't have that much affinity to Teen Titans. It didn't mean that much to me. So I was just like, meh, whatever. So apparently Beast Boy does get more green and Starfire gets a costume more akin to what you're used to. So everyone, what they're doing is taking the Netflix thing. More on that later with the costumes. Except for Robin, which makes sense because Robin's fully fledged and the leader of everything.
That is a fact. I
But I
forgot about that.
digress.
He really does have his full out costume. Speaking of DC stuff, let's talk about Birds of Prey some more.
Yeah, you like how we did that, don't you,
Yeah,
listeners?
Ewan McGregor is maybe going to be Black Mask.
Yeah.
Is it
I
Roman
heard
Science?
that it's for sure going to happen, but for sure, like, they could be like, oh, scheduling conflicts and all that kind of stuff. But
I think it's for sure until he reads a script he doesn't like, and then it's not for sure. So I think with these things, all you could ever say is he's in talks.
Yeah.
Right? He has not told them no.
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, they're probably going to show a flashback scene about before, like, because whenever
is
characters
interesting
are
that-
stuck in masks, I'm always like, oh, that sucks. But they always
Well,
find a way to
he's
show
not
them
stuck in
before.
the mask. It's just
Well, the mask is burned onto his face,
yeah, but I feel like
so they're probably going to show
based
that
on who they
a
were trying to
flashback, yeah.
when they were talking about who they were gonna have, I always felt like it would be like a mask he puts on.
Oh, so
Yeah.
like changing. Well, I mean, they've changed enough of the history of a lot of those characters that wouldn't be consistent with what's going on. Yeah,
I just feel like and they were always British people, which I was like, huh. I know they're gonna make him do an accent, but like it seemed like the majority of people they were looking at were British people, and I was like, well, I hope they could do the accent.
I just feel like British people have better acting backgrounds than North American actors. And this was mentioned on the podcast before, and this is not my original thought. It's just something I've agreed with. Someone wrote this article about like why British people are getting more acting roles in North American Hollywood movies, and that's because they were saying the North American model of building actors now is based on fame as opposed to merit of acting ability, versus in Britain or the UK or other places in the world, not just, but the majority of our leading actors in Hollywood are coming from UK because they're focused more on the actual base foundation of acting ability and merit, and they're proving themselves before they even get to whatever. So they're pushing these things out. So
Who knows?
I don't know. I something I just happen to agree with. But I mean, for those of you that don't know Black Mask, he's quite a good villain. Like I'm very, very happy with him.
It's the coffins of his parents or something. That's the mask that he melted onto his face.
that I'm not
it's
too
made of the
sure.
coffins from his
Yeah.
parents,
So
who I'm assuming he killed. I don't know.
It's the alias of Roman Sionis.
So Ronan Sionis. I don't ever. I think that's how they've said it in the cartoon, but I don't know.
He's a brutally sadistic kingpin with a ebony black mask, which was burned onto his face. Is the background I'm familiar with, and you know it's he's quite a cool character. He's got like fighting abilities and all that kind of stuff too, which is really, really neat. And he's a great tactician and a lot of wealth at his hands. So,
yes,
that would be really, really cool.
And as we know from last episode, he's got the Huntress doing some of his dirty work until she finds out.
Yeah,
he killed her parents.
Yeah, and
which I also like that tie-in.
I do like that tie-in. That is played by Mary Elizabeth
Winstead.
And then there's Black Canary, which is Journey Smollett Bell, and Rosie Perez as Renee Montoya. I'm not too sure who Renee Montoya is.
Oh, you're not a good Batman the Animated Series fan then. She was the female cop. She was always like Harvey Bullock's sidekick. In the comics, she is a lesbian character who has taken on the mantle of the Question. I think that's it. The faceless guy with the hat, looks like a detective. I want to say it's the Question. It's usually in blue and yellow.
Okay, interesting.
But originally it was her girlfriend who was the Question.
Neat.
And then she takes over. But yeah, Renee Montoya is a great character. If you remember in The Dark Knight, you remember there was like a Hispanic cop that was like compromised. That's obviously not Renee Montoya, but that's like a version of her, like someone who like wants to do the work, but also is like, yeah, but I guess Batman's around as well.
Yep.
That's the Question.
Oh yeah, it's coming back to me now.
I guess I could have just showed you a picture of Renee Montoya.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's Anyway.
Yeah.
Good for them for doing that movie, and it's supposed to be rated R, which, as we were talking about before, does not necessarily mean it will end up that way, as we know from Venom. It just means that they can write the story they want to write.
But here's the thing: is I feel like with Venom, because Sony, but I mean DC versus Sony in terms of making comic book movies. There's not. It's arguing which one's worse at that point, not which one's better. But if Sony really had high hopes to try to link this up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point, DC clearly doesn't want to do that. They've indicated that they've learned from their lessons about how interconnected they want to make this world. I don't know if I trust that whatsoever. But they want to do one-offs a little bit more and standalones. So, I mean, making this rated R from a standalone standpoint would be more consistent to me with the DC EU. And I would actually be very excited about it. But
I'm excited either way. I don't care if it's R or not.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
I want to see Ewan McGregor as a little bad guy. It'd be a good guy.
Sure.
Good time.
I'm more interested in the female characters. While Black Mass is nice, I'm not that big into Ewan McGregor. I think he's a good actor, but I've never been like, oh yeah, Ewan.
He's got some good stuff.
Obviously you like him for his work on that. What's that independent film series?
Star Wars. Yeah, it's a very small indie film. I don't think a lot of you have heard of it. No, more like his train spotting stuff and all that kind of stuff. Like I really like him in those kind of roles.
This is Renee. This is not for the podcast anymore. I just wanted to show you.
That's who it is. Yeah. Okay. I just never knew her name. I just knew Bullock and whatever.
So that's that. Let's now talk about Daredevil season 3.
Yeah.
It was good. Did you like it?
It was scrumptious.
Scrumptious. What is that, a Willy Wonka thing?
No, that was a Will Ferrell.
Yes, I do remember that.
It was a word so perfect, I have to make something up right now, which is scrumptious. It was a fantastic season to me. I think all the characters figured out what they were supposed to do. They hit their stride. None of them were really annoying to me. There was periods of time where they were like, what is going on? And the new characters introduced were like, what? That is awesome. Because I kind of got like, we'll go through this, but that big reveal of the nun, Mother, what's her face?
Maggie.
Mother Maggie was that.
Sister Maggie.
Sister Maggie. That caught me off guard. That really did. I did not see that coming because I didn't know that much about the background of the character. And this is Daredevil slowly becoming a very, very, very beloved character to me now because of this show. I think it was fantastic.
I'm going to say this. Everything I say should be... you should also know that a lot of my lack of enthusiasm for the show comes through the lack of him being in the red costume or Bullseye getting even keeping his baseball hat that had the like bullseye thing on it. I understand that's just something I have to get over, but it really does ruin it for me. Like,
Why,
I can't,
though? Because
I can't get over how much it's a bummer to just see people in suits fighting. Like, I mean, like actual like 3-piece suits, not like superhero costumes.
So here's my thing. I'm
not saying it's a
bit.
good idea. I'm just saying it's such a bummer that you have a comic book character that's known for a certain thing, and you're like, but you know. We don't want to deal with that.
Is that the only reason why, or like because I'm trying
like
to
part of it is like
understand.
seeing that in motion,
Yeah.
and having that fun of it. It's what you were talking about when we were watching The Punisher and he was out of the costume for so long, and you're like, it's just a guy shooting people all the time, which we see on TV already. So there's that lack of
with the
that
Punisher,
fantasy, and with Daredevil for most of it was like, yeah, it's this blind guy getting beat up, and you're like. And, like, for a lot of it, it is, like, he's compromised. And you're like, oh, like, I would feel better about this if I wasn't, like, looking at someone just get beat up.
So, my main issue with the Punisher not having that the costume or the skull or something like that was because it was just, like, it was too real. Frank Castle was a character that's just literally a human being bent on hell, revenge, and all that kind of stuff. And it's too real. It hits too close to home for a comic book character. With a comic book character like Daredevil, where you're like, okay. And this is the funny thing. I saw a meme about this, and I think it was really, really funny. That if you were to tell two people that that knew nothing about comic books, that there were two heroes, that one was blind, used echolocation, all that kind of stuff, and his name is Daredevil, and you're describing Batman, you're like, why wouldn't Batman be the one that uses echolocation? But I thought that was pretty funny. But I digress. Daredevil is a character that's just like, what? That's absurd. Your blindness, like, how do you do the echolocation thing, like, all that kind of stuff? Like, it's an element that's just like, oh, those are your powers. It's absurd to kind of think about that kind of thing. So it makes it very comic booky off the bat, versus Frank Castle is like, no, this is literally a dude with a whole bunch of guns just shooting up people for his own purpose, and that's disturbing to me to watch, to the motivations and people like identifying with it and everything like that. I'm like, that's a very disturbing thing. That's too real and it's too close to home. But for Daredevil season 3, it's not like, to me, this is what I really want to understand for you, where you're coming from, because even in season 1, he had the black suit. Yeah. Season 3, he has the black suit for a very different reason again, but it's still a black suit. It's not like an Iron Fist situation where he's like, oh, I'm just going to be, everyone knows me, I'm famous, I'm going to fight without a mask kind of deal. Right. He's doing it for all the right reasons. Like, I want to, in this season, obviously, he's got that suicidal tendency. He can't kill himself because of his Catholic guilt and all that kind of stuff. It made sense to me that he's like, no, I don't want the suit that provides protection. I don't want the helmet and all that kind of stuff, because I'm so far gone that I don't care what happens to me anymore. Yeah. That to me was a really, really cool thing, that he's just like, I just want to beat people up, and like, if I die, I die.
Well, I want to put myself in a situation where people could possibly beat me to death.
Exactly. Right. So to me, like, that was a really cool storytelling element to bring him back into the black suit, but also the symbolism of the black suit being like, I am the devil now. I am this. I have this far, like, he's fallen from grace. His relationship with God has been questioned in multiple episodes.
My rebuttal to that is, that was elegantly dealt with in Dark Knight Returns, when Batman's like, what do you think I have this yellow target on my, like, chest for? Like, he still suits up. He still does the comic book aspect, and his suicidal tendencies just permeate through, like, I've got a big yellow target on my chest, or I'm going to drive really fast and do that stuff. It wasn't like, I'm just going to go out there and get beat up, like, just with, like, a scarf around my head. Right. Like, you can still get all those points done with, and again, I get how they wrote it so it makes sense to people. It's just, that will never sit well with me if we're talking about doing these comic book shows. Like, I don't understand why you would take on these properties to strip them of some of the most iconic stuff that they do. Right. It's a weird choice. I'm not saying it makes it bad, because obviously it's good TV. It's just something I have to deal with on my own. I think it's a weird choice every time, because to strip them of that stuff, because, like, that's part of what made it to the point where someone wanted to have a TV show about it.
So, because the thing is, like, when we talk about this, I want to talk about the idea of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage as well, who are like, Jessica Jones never really had a costume.
Yeah, that's her character.
That's her character.
That makes sense.
That was fine. But Luke Cage, he doesn't have a costume, and that's a symbolic reason. It's like, no, I'm not going to be a black man with a mask to hide my identity. I want people to know that this is...
again, part of the character.
It's part of the character. In this, they've kind of written it so it's part of the character. It's at least for the character arc this season. That to me was absolutely brilliant. And when you texted me and you're like, oh man, I hate the fact that they're not putting them in the suits again. What the hell kind of deal? I was just like, I watched it and I just like try to get into that mindset that you're at. And I'm like, I can't understand what the problem is because it was so well written to the devices that they had in the plot.
I guess it would be like if they were like, hey, we're doing a Darth Vader thing. And then they just writ it in such a great way that he didn't look like the way he's on your shirt, minus the cigarette, obviously. He was just a guy that had a breathing problem. That can be a great, compelling story. It could be a great thing. It's just like, I feel like I'm missing part of it. Or why did we even bother taking on that name recognition if we weren't going to show it?
So here's my rebuttal. And we've talked about this at great lengths about like how a Darth Vader movie would not work. But the idea of if they were making it character driven to be like, okay, well, he's taking off his mask in his hyperbolic chamber to restore or whatever Mustafar or his Imperial Death Star, and that's when you see the humanity of him and you want to see the humanity of that character. But when he puts on the mask, he can be that monster again. Like, I think that's an excellent writing vehicle. That's very,
but
very
what I'm
obvious.
saying is he doesn't put the mask on.
If he doesn't put the mask on, I'd be pissed.
That's
what the hell.
So there you go. You got to where I am. This is what I'm saying. If you take these iconic characters that have a look, and then you're like, but we don't want to get into that because it doesn't. To me, it doesn't come off as this genuine. Like, we've just found this organic way that he could just dress up in black pants and a black shirt. Right. It comes from thinking, I don't like that look. Like, I don't like. Let's get him away from that. Let's get them away from that because that is too weird, and we don't want to do it.
But Daredevil in the comics had a black suit. Right, and then
that's always been a past tense thing. And then he's always drawn like that's. You're gonna find him in that red thing more than anything else.
Easily.
Even if they wanted to do the black with the red letters on it, like there's a look he has. That's all I'm saying. Is for me, it's a weird choice to be like, we don't want to do that. Considering that you're digging in with that character, you could do that. Like, there's other characters you do, or just make up your own stuff. Especially now where they're at, where like they're probably not going to have Marvel properties.
They're definitely not.
So they're going to be able to do their own thing and not put people in the red Daredevil suit or not put it.
I think the future of the Netflix Marvel deal is going to be so interesting with the Punisher and the Daredevil properties alone. Because when it was revealed, there was a report revealed the other day that the Luke Cage and the Iron Fist audience dropped down to 1/3 in the second season.
Yeah.
Of the initial. So the thing with the Luke Cage thing, they were saying like, oh yeah, the novelty of him being a black superhero in Harlem that is bulletproof and everything like that only lasted the first season, and then everyone lost, like, oh, we kind of dropped off about this. There's other things to care about now. It's like the Me Too movement. That's why Jessica Jones or whatever, like the political side of things brought into it, was very, very interesting to talk about that. And then Iron Fist, season 1 was weak as hell. Season 2 got a little bit better. By that I mean like 0.5 better.
Yeah.
And then it was just like still falling on the same issues and all that kind of stuff. They even did a shortened season. It was almost like,
very smart of them.
We didn't realize that we were actually going to do this, so we're just going to give this kind of nonsense out. It made sense to me, but the Daredevil thing, I actually thought the reasons why they did what they did was so well done.
Again, that's the only analogy I can give you. Yeah. I could conceive of a great movie where the character is called Anakin Skywalker, he's Darth Vader, never puts on the mask, and you're like, wow, like, yeah, that made so much sense. They really wrote it well. But then you'd still be left with, then why did they try to tackle that story if they wanted to strip him out of that? Like, such an iconic thing, and be able to have him have that aspect shown.
I can see where you're coming from, but to me, when you when I apply that logic to season 3 of Daredevil, it falls apart to me because to me it was so like. Would you agree that the reasons why they kept him in the black suit made sense and then why he didn't get the red suit back made sense?
No, I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. I 100% understand what you're saying about it is a really well done storytelling about what's happening. Let's just understand that and leave it.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you don't have to write it that way.
Right.
There are examples of being able to keep them in the suit and still explore all those things exactly the same way.
I feel like when he starts to turn late season, when he starts to care about things again, and he starts to do all those kind of things, like he doesn't care about his own soul, he doesn't care about his relationship with God, but he starts to care about Karen and Foggy again. I think at that point you have a good argument of why doesn't he wear the suit? I
think the more I'm thinking about it, also because I also, as much as I like the storytelling, because I don't need the main person to be good. I found him actually really boring and kind of like self-absorbed. But I think that's also what I don't like is that when you think of like Batman, he's doing that because that's like that is iconic to us as the audience, but also within his diegetic world, that's an iconic look. That's like that means something. It becomes more than the person. It becomes this imagery, right? So for him to just dress like that, anyone can do that. It doesn't feel as it doesn't feel like he's fully embracing what a comic book hero is about in that sense. It does feel too like this is just about me, and like that's great. Again, I would watch that TV show about this guy who can do all this stuff. But if you're taking it from this thing and like from this greater world of heroes and what makes something, especially someone like him, where he's got this, I'm not going to kill this code and everything. I understand he lost that for a bit. But for me to feel like this is Daredevil, like someone we should care about, that suit also means something because it's him showing like this iconic and this like metaphor that means something more, which again, don't get me wrong, I understand that he lost that. I understand that it was written well so that it makes sense that he wouldn't put it back on. I'm saying it's leaving money on the table. It's like you're not fully embracing the point of these kinds of stories. It is making it very personal, but then I really need to like that person, which I don't really like him.
Fair.
So it's great that what's going on around him is good. But that's what I'm saying. Like I like Luke Cage, but he has a thing where like his first season he wasn't the most like interesting character. Oh no! But he had great people around him, and there is an element of the theatrics of having a costume and something like that that obviously hurt Luke Cage in the first one but then you see where they went with it in the second one. That idea that like he's probably not a good guy. He actually is a selfish person that it wants it to be all about him and isn't thinking about this properly. So that makes sense for his character. But I don't think over these 3 seasons and Defenders that's what they want for Matt Murdock. Right. That he's this selfish. I think that's the whole point, is he's so selfless, and that this season explores what it's like when he wants to be selfish, but that he comes out of that. And he does end up being selfless, protecting Vanessa in that final fight and not letting her die, even though he knows that would kill Kingpin. Like he is thinking about more than just himself.
Yes.
But
even then, to that final fight and the fact that he didn't kill Kingpin, arguably if he didn't care about himself, he would have killed Kingpin. But he started caring about himself, like in that immediate switch moment. Is like, I'm not going to let you compromise who I am. Kind of deal.
That's what I'm saying. He lost it. Yeah. We understand that. Yeah. That makes sense. It makes sense. He found his way home. Yeah. I just think, and that's what I'm saying, it doesn't make this a bad show. No. This is just something that, to me, I don't understand why we're engaging with these characters if you want to strip them of that element of it, because that's part of it. You can't leave that on the table. Like you need to embrace that as well. Sorry, you don't need to. I feel like there's other things you could do then if you didn't want to embrace that element of these characters.
Right. Like if he was like, I'm going to wear the suit, but it's going to be black to reflect my soul kind of deal.
I'm saying I'm just saying there's other characters that you could use that aren't so like just invest in someone like I know this is DC, not Marvel, but like characters like Constantine are people where you can have all of this stuff. You can have the religious stuff, Preacher, you can have that, all that, but they're not they've got an iconic look, but they don't have like a costume, and they also don't have that element of this is something that could become a legacy to them. That is also part of it. Which Daredevil is like Danny Rand has been Daredevil before. Like this is stuff that you can pass on, and it means something. That part of it means something because that is also part of their character. Someone that would want to do something like that. That is part of it.
Now, I don't know too much about the comic book backstory about Daredevil, but and you've said that he's that mantle's been passed on. But is that the kind of association that this is the character of Daredevil is looking to explore, or is it just like I just want to do this one thing? Because
but that's what I'm saying. It becomes too personal, and I don't care about him that much. Right. So like what I'm saying is, there's the idea that you are taking a look at someone that is split. Right. And obviously, for both of us, the big example is Bruce Wayne, Batman. Like the fact that an actor needs to play Bruce Wayne and Batman. Yes. The fact that someone needs to play Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Yes. The idea that costume opens them up, like it opens them up, and you're seeing something more than just the guy who's angry and wants to fight people, and then just hides his face because it's easier to do that than to have your face in the papers or whatever. Like there's an idea that you're actually visually, but like literally exploring more sides to this character. I see.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I felt like they have done a good enough track record in the Daredevil series to justify him. Like season 1, him not having the suit was okay. Well, he didn't meet the guy that makes the suit until the very, very end. Season 2, he wore the suit the entire season. We all loved that. Then building collapsed on him, destroying the suit and everything in the process. Season 3. He's like, no, I don't care. I just want, like, I can't commit suicide because that's a sin in my religion. So I'm just going to put myself in situations where arguably I could get killed, or that I have something to prove, or just I don't care about myself and do all that kind of nonsense. Well, not nonsense, I should say, but do that kind of stuff, but still put himself in those situations. I thought it was thematically through the entire series, this has made sense. So I would... If in season 4 of Daredevil, because this is probably, we can confidently say it's going to get renewed.
Yeah,
confidently.
I'm sure this will get renewed.
If in season 4 he's not wearing a suit or a newer version of the suit, where he's like, oh yeah, it's like, right, I care, like Nelson, Murdoch, and Page now is a thing. We're going to start at this law firm again. We're going to do this thing, and I'm going to continue to be Daredevil, which is an interesting end to this series, because it's like, does that... I think it was quite smart for them to write, because it's just, if we have no more Daredevil now, it kind of ends on a good note because of the Disney streaming service taking over kind of thing. It ends on a good note of like, okay, he's done with Daredevil. He doesn't need to be that anymore. He could just fight crime legally. He's defeated his greatest foe, which is Kingpin. But then they left that little crack of the teaser of Bullseye is going to get a real costume and upgrades to his spine and all that anatomical stuff. So I think it was quite clever the way they did that. But we'll see whether or not it happens, because I just feel like Marvel is going to, from or Disney specifically, from a negotiation standpoint with Netflix, is going to be like, okay, you can do this, but here's our licensing fee now. And it's going to be like trillions of dollars. And Netflix, being so in debt right now, is going to be like, we can't consolidate.
Netflix holds most of the chips in this situation. Yeah. It's theirs to cancel or renew. They don't have to.
Didn't know that side of the business.
Yeah, they don't need Marvel or Disney on that. So it's their characters basically. Okay. Yes, they're part of the shared universe, but I think that speaks to why like Kevin Feige hasn't watched it or anything like that. Because he doesn't need to care about what's going on there, because it's not like they actually can't really they would have to negotiate with Netflix to use those characters. Right. I think he can just be like, whatever it's happening, they can bend to our will or whatever they want to do. Yeah. But that's
funny too, because obviously the Thanos finger snap didn't affect this season whatsoever.
So it doesn't take place in 2018, I don't think.
Oh, when does it take place?
Most people assume it's happening during Spider-Man Homecoming time.
Oh, okay.
Because you can still see the Avengers Tower, and Avengers Tower got sold in
I didn't even
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
think of those little Easter eggs.
These shows don't happen in real time. Yeah,
right.
And sequentially. It used to be that whatever time you were watching it is when that piece of media was happening, but
so that's
now they're jumping around to avoid stuff like the snap.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, because that was really confusing to me. I'm like, wait, that would have been interesting going into the season, knowing how the snap would have affected anything, but it didn't, because now the time frame, and that's consistent with everything. So that's really good. And from a TV standpoint, you can have a shorter time frame than a movie where you're jumping longer time frames, right? So that makes sense. Yeah. So if in season 4, if they don't put him in a newer version of the suit, because he now has contact with the guy and he knows who Betsy is and all that kind of stuff, he's like, I need you to make me a new suit, because the guy even offered to make him a new suit too.
Yeah, he turned out. I don't know. I think it's not that smart what they did at the end, because everything to me just seems like it's reset to when we met these characters in season 1. So, like, I don't think he cares about that.
I kind of like that.
I don't like the lack of forward motion. I saw people disappointed in the Foggy character, because it's like he's successful, he's actually in a position to make change, and then he's like, no, I'll drop all this so that I can work with Matt again, like my best friend. And you're like, really? And then
that. I really don't. I mean, because it was like the season 2 issue I had with Foggy was that the friendship between Matt and him was just so disjointed and broken that it's just like, no, now they've come back to full circle. Now they're friends again, and now Karen Page is recognized as an equal, which is really exciting for me to see. And she's really strong character in this season, and she's got that little self-destructive, like that one scene where she's like, yeah, you guys are just having fun. Why, like that whole gun thing, like where she was like, I have a gun and all this kind of stuff, and like just threatened off those guys, like doing cat calls with women and all that kind of stuff. That was really, really cool for me to watch. I really enjoyed seeing her that empowered, coming from where she was. And then also the one episode where it was all about her, episode 10, where it was like showing her how she killed her brother. How she was responsible for killing her brother, and why she was the way she was. Because basically, and the funny thing is, I identify so much with that, because my father passed away early as a kid, that I had to be a part of that family, no matter what.
The way
I
she had to step up when her mom
exactly.
Yeah.
So like that, to me, when they wrote that in that episode, I was like, whoa, I love this character. I loved her a lot, and now I'm like, now I identify with her, which is amazing to me. I thought that was, from a personal standpoint, really, really cool. It was
I didn't like that they all came back together, because it's like you can still be friends and be in your individual areas of expertise and work that way. It's broadening your network instead of restricting it and putting it back and working for chicken. I think they. Yeah, because that now, like, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, and now he wants his suit back. I would be like, no, things are working for him. He didn't need the suit then. He doesn't. If he can beat someone, like, that's the other thing people were talking about, like Matt being someone who like needs to be this close range fighter that's like gets in personal with you and beats you that way. Where Dex is someone who physically needs you to stay away from him, so he pushes and like throws projectiles at you. That's the ultimate time you need that kind of suit to protect from something like that. If he could get through it without that, then I don't think he like is like, man, I really need that suit again.
Well, you could be right in the sense where he, like the first half of season 4, because they're clearly bringing back Dex. Like, why would they do that little teaser at the end where it's like, oh, now he's got the spine that's like anatomically.
Well, it's supposed to be adamantium, but they can't use adamantium because it's not part of the thing.
Yeah,
I don't know why they didn't. I guess they can't say vibranium either. That's too much.
Yeah, that's a bit too much. But I'm fine with what they're gonna do. Or something.
I mean,
but
I didn't think I needed that shot. Like, I understand that's part of the character, but again, it was more like, we're gonna go to the edge of you seeing the comic book style of it.
Yep.
but not actually do it.
Right.
And your imagination is better than anything we can do.
Yeah. So if they did like the first couple of episodes where he was still in the black suit, and then he's like, Bullseye comes back, and he's like, oh, he realizes Bullseye needs that protection from the proximity standpoint, and then he goes to get the new suit, and it's an upgraded suit. Would you be okay with that if it happened earlier in the season?
Like I said, I understand the story they're telling.
Yep.
It's baffling to me that you would want to do that, but I don't understand why you would keep going back and forth with him in the suit. I would just pick a lane and stick with it.
Fair.
And the lane they seem to be doing is no suit.
Well, because from this point on, we're assumed that he's fully developed Daredevil. He's fully recognized, all this kind of stuff. His name is cleared. He's a hero. He can wear the suit again.
Yeah.
Versus the black suit was just like, it was a guy wearing black with a hood. Like, that description is like, versus like, it was a guy wearing a red suit with horns. That's a very different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Right? Let's get into some of the characters.
We can talk about Dex if you want.
I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about Dex.
I liked his
had
fight
some
scenes.
Strong feelings about him. You quote said in a textual.
Yeah,
message.
I just don't understand why he didn't get to keep like something that actually made him
like
Bullseye. The
would you
Daredevil
say
suit
that
was
he-
smart for a bit, but then
Yes.
there's a point where they were like, "No, I saw." Like, it's when Sister Maggie's like, "Well, I saw Daredevil go that way, and you're saying he went this way." That to me was like, "Oh, okay, great. Now we have the perfect opening for him to stop using that suit because that concept is done now. He's burnt that bridge, and he likes the idea of a suit. He can do his own thing now." Yeah, that to me would have been a nice jumping off point. They didn't want to do that. So whatever. That was just my strong opinion of like, why, like, just, you already had him in a suit. Why can't he have like the Bullseye suit at some point?
Interesting.
But like everything visually that he did was great. Like that first time that he comes out to save Kingpin and he's like ricocheting bullets.
Oh my god, that was awesome.
All of that's great.
That was incredible.
I really
for me
like.
to watch.
I wish that they could have gotten more into Matt like being like, I have your tapes. They're like, oh yeah, who's this, who's that? Like they do it one time, and I thought that was good, but I wish there could have been more time spent on that.
With
Like
Matt like playing psychological games with him.
because that's the other thing I thought. Like, oh man, like he's outmatched. He can't fight the way he wants to. He's gonna have to figure out all these new ways, and they kind of was like, no, he still just fights.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, great. Again, not real. Like that might have made me respect the character more. To see him like problem solve instead of just like, nope, I just run at it and fight.
But would you say that he was? I would say now, because of where he's at and the spinal thing or whatever, that he's now Bullseye. Like, would you say that he was Bullseye during the filming of this season, where he's basically just Kingpin's pawn and basically made him like Kingpin manipulating him?
But that's always how Bullseye works.
Fair.
So
Because I don't know too much about Bullseye.
So yeah, he was just Bullseye during the show.
I see. Okay.
He was Bullseye and everything but the suit.
Yep.
And again, I said he had the baseball. Like if he put back on a baseball cap that had that same logo or something, would have been good. Even like it's part of the MCU disguise thing. Put on a baseball cap and glasses.
Sunglasses.
They don't have to put him in like a full on like onesie or whatever.
Right.
Something other than the light reflection in his eyeballs for some reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Is he a robot? Like, what the hell is this?
Well, he's got to be cyborg-ish now with it.
I don't know, man.
Because all they need to do is put a computer chip in there. He's in a cyborg-ish kind of thing.
Yeah, it's weird. Well done character. They obviously gave him depth by like
Oh my God.
the way he felt betrayed that his therapist was dying.
That was the
That was
most
great.
incredible thing. Like those flashbacks when Fisk started exploring that, I'm like, hold on one second. Let me put down my phone. And I watched, I was like, this is one of the best pieces of storytelling from a comic book villain origin standpoint. That they made him so human and all this kind of stuff. And his therapist and all that kind of stuff. That was some great acting. It was.
Well, I don't
really
think they
well
made
done.
him human. I thought they just made him interesting because like
Well,
he was.
humans, right? Not
Yeah.
the right word because he's.
They were just
sociopathic.
they were
Yeah.
showing how
origin.
disturbed he is,
Yeah.
and I think that's what they did a good job of illustrating, giving him. He's a layered
Yeah.
character.
He's
Is
very
that
layered.
I think that's what they did.
It's like they managed to take, and this is the thought I had that was very, very interesting. Dexter And his name is ironically Poindexter and Dex.
I had to look it up. I was like, is his name Dex? Because this is like Dexter. And then I was like, oh, I guess, his name is Dex.
I thought that was very clever how they did that, but at the same time gave it something completely different as opposed to the whole like dad flashback thing. And instead of encouraging him to kill, the therapist is like, no, you're misguided. You need a North Star. You're
and
a
they
good
use
person.
that Julie person as the North Star, which I liked that stuff.
I really like that angle.
That's another thing maybe I should rewatch it, but I feel like they did a lot of telling, not showing with Kingpin's reach. Like sometimes it would just be like, oh, Kingpin did that. I'm like, did he? Like,
they explored it a lot through dialogue.
It was just dialogue that was like, yeah, Fisk did this, and I'm
like the Albanians.
Well, like, why didn't they show him like orchestrating it or like something like? Because literally, like my recollection, I watched it right when it came out, so maybe you have a better memory of it. But like my recollection was he was just sitting around waiting to be thing, and then you can just assume it's right that he did orchestrate all this stuff because we as a comic book audience know he's this orchestrator. That's why he's called the Kingpin. But I'm like, you don't show him doing anything.
But you know what I liked about that, though, is that they didn't show him doing a lot of stuff to the point you're talking about, is the idea that he's clearly manipulating a lot of things. And in the day of fake news because of Donald Trump and all that kind of stuff, I thought it was quite clever that they explored that through dialogue as opposed to like actions where the audience is like definitive.
But that only works if you have reason to believe he might not have done it.
Yes, but no, because I'm trying to, when I'm watching that from that point, I'm trying to understand it from how the media is portraying him, how the public is perceiving him in that reality.
I guess, but it wasn't really media people talking about what he was doing either.
True.
It was
the Albanian.
It was just people who were actually affected by
lords.
what he was doing, saying he was doing it. I don't know. I thought they could have, because one thing that's always clear when Vincent D'Onofrio is playing Wilson Fisk is, wow, this guy's a great actor.
Yeah.
But I don't. Like growing up with the Roscoe Lee Brown version of Kingpin, that guy always felt like he was a manipulator and he was in control, whereas Wilson Fisk just seems like if there's like a spot out of place, he's gonna lose his shit. And I don't really feel that's like, I don't really feel the puppet master from him. So there was a lot of telling me that
the Vincent
from Vincent D'Onofrio.
I see.
I get that people are telling me he is one,
right?
But like most of the time you see him do things, it's him losing his shit because someone got under his skin or like he can't be with Vanessa. And I'm like, I mean, one thing is he's certainly intimidating. He could kill someone with his bare hands. That's intimidating, but I don't get that other aspect of Kingpin from him. Right. Which is that he is this puppet master and that he like a couple more conversations where he's actually like getting inside of Dex's head. Like just more of that would have gone a longer way for me in terms of like feeling that he's more than just a brute threat.
I thought it was, they actually balanced it quite well with the master manipulator standpoint, as well as the raw brutality of Kingpin. I thought they balanced it quite well. So I guess I slightly disagree with you on that, but I mean, like it's to no effect because they're still exploring how he's manipulating everything. It's just through dialogue, and it would have been interesting to see, like,
but it's not like it. I don't think it is through that because it's like off camera lines, like, oh yeah, he must have done.
No, I would have liked to see to your point. Now that you're mentioning it, because I didn't really think about this until you mentioned it now. But him having some kind of out of context scenes that kind of allude to it, but then you're that's what that was all about, kind of deal. Like that would have been cool to see.
Again, maybe I just have to rewatch it and it might be in there.
Maybe, because like when I watched it, so it was very interesting. I watched a marathon like the first 4 episodes, and then marathon the next, and then a week went by, and I marathon the next 4 in one day, and then packed 2 like everything together. So it was kind of disjointed. But for me, what I'm noticing now as I age, when I marathon shows, I'm paying less and less attention as shows go on. So what I want to do is a 3-episode limit to each time I watch something, so everything I can really dissect it and think about the sections of it. But that's just me. Let's talk about.
Do you want to talk about Nadim?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that character. You sent me a couple of text messages early on when you were watching it and all that kind of stuff, and then I was just like, okay, didn't pay too much attention to it, didn't realize where it was going, but that character arc I thought was where it ended was quite fantastic.
Yeah, I like that character.
Yeah, he was. It was at first I was like, when the first time they introduced him, I'm like, yeah, why are they doing that? And then to learn later on that Fisk manipulated
from time, like from a year ago or something.
Exactly. I'm like, holy crap, he really played the long game on that. It was really, really cool to see. And even the relationship he had with his boss and like everything, like he was really one of those characters that was just like, I'm up against a wall here. I don't know what to do. What the hell? And then like he finds his North Star at the end where he's like, listen, this is my confession. Yada yada yada. He sends
I was happy that his wife didn't actually abandon. Like when she was in the office, she's like, "Yeah, he's just a monster." I was like, "No!" Yeah, and then you see that he told her to do that. I'm like, "Oh, thank goodness."
Yeah, I was very happy with that
because I liked their relationship. Even that like in the first episode, just that brief thing where like they start speaking to each other. I don't know what they were speaking, unfortunately, but. It wasn't English, and you like see they were joking around. She's like, "Yeah, I tried every card. I tried the blah blah blah." Like I just liked that they had like that kind of relationship. So when she was like, "I can't be around you because like our son needs someone to trust, and it's certainly not you," I was like, "That's true," but also like don't hate him. And then I was glad to hear that she in death wasn't like, "Yeah, fuck that guy."
Yeah, because he was just. I think that was very cool because she obviously had her trust broken.
Yeah,
quite a bit. And it's very.
I understood her thing.
Yeah, I understand where she was coming from
to a degree. I don't know what it's like to be married to someone in the FBI, but I was just like, I mean, surely you must understand that you're not going to you can't know everything about his job.
Yeah, but there's a difference between
bringing the violence to the house. 100%. I was like, yeah, that's a bit much to bring the violence into our home.
Oh, totally.
But like sometimes she would say things to him, and I'm like, well,
that seems
come on,
come on. But I don't know. Like to me, if you don't know the full details of something and then you're like asking stupid questions about it, I don't think that's.
No, I don't mean she was asking. I'm thinking she was asking too much of him, considering.
Oh yeah,
he didn't like they didn't get married, and then he was like, you know what? I'm done with this cleaners business. I'm selling my cleaners thing. I'm gonna go to school to be in the FBI, and then she's like blindsided by like, oh man, now you're all secret. I've got to imagine like that's something she knew about him before they were like that's the only way. That's like the only way she's known him at best, right? Like even if this was, I'm not saying that it was, but even if it was an arranged marriage or something like that, where they didn't grow up together and like have this bond, that would be the only way she ever knew him. Right. So like to then be like, how, like I can't believe you didn't tell me about this. It's like, well,
it definitely wasn't an arranged marriage because one of all the dialogues that she has is like, you know why I married you? It's not because you're the most handsome guy, and I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah.
But it was the idea is like you were the only man that's ever been honest with me, and you're ruining that right now, kind of deal. And so, like obviously, it wasn't an arranged marriage in the sense where if it was,
I'm saying marriage, even if they didn't know each other from time, what I'm saying is. The fact that it's not an arranged marriage, it proves my point even more. Yes. That like she's only ever known him the one way,
right?
And he couldn't be honest about the fact that he can't be honest about work.
Yes,
that's still the honesty. That is the truth. But that's what I'm saying. Like that part again, it speaks to what we were talking about Karen and Foggy with Matt. It's kind of like, well, you can't have it both ways. Like,
right?
He's telling you this about himself. So you have to understand it. And so that's why I was like, they could have just given her, she's mad that he brought violence in the home, because that is a very reasonable thing.
That's a very understandable
that alone, you'd be like, all right.
That one piece of dialogue where she was like, listen, when they were shooting and me and Sammy were in the bathtub, I genuinely
was hoping he died first.
That they kill him first so that he wouldn't have to watch me die.
Yeah, you can't come back from that.
I was like, holy crap, that was so powerful. I'm just like, he at that point realized how bad he's messed up.
He knew like he couldn't exist in the world anymore. That's why he died.
But at the same time too, he was in that situation where he was like, we have no money. And that was the funny thing about the boss is like, we don't promote when we know that there's these liabilities. It compromises you and all that kind of stuff. But then they promoted him. I'm like, how did you not think about that? But I guess his desperation kind of got the best of him in the sense where like, you're giving me more money? This is awesome.
Why didn't he think something was up?
Why didn't he think something was up?
I thought it was a pretty quick like escalation from you get promoted to here's the room full of people who are already on the take. I don't think there was a lot of time in between.
That's true.
That I think they promoted him and then let him know like, hey, even if you want to squeal, just know all of us are in this situation and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, Nadim was good.
Nadim was a really great character. I really liked him a lot. He met a very tragic but honorable fate.
It made sense that that's how he went out. Yeah. Do you want to talk about Foggy and what's his girlfriend's name? I don't remember.
I don't know.
That he like proposed to, and then she just all. One thing I just read that I thought was weird. I was like, did I miss something? Because she's so nice now. Like, wasn't he?
She
like
was a dick.
Wasn't she like his booty call one time? Like,
yeah.
She was mean to him because she was supposed to be like the popular girl that he could never get, and then he sexes her, and it's like, yeah, I'm done. Yeah. I'm done with you. And then you're like, oh yeah, you really put her in her place. And then like the next time you see them, they're like in this loving relationship. Yeah. And I get that time has passed, but I was just like,
the forbidden fruit, man.
No, I didn't not. I understand, unfortunately, that he treated her poorly, and then she would.
Yes.
The dynamics would change, and then she would be calling him Foggy Baron or whatever. But I was just like, but that wouldn't change her into just being this completely nice. It's like, I feel like she still was missing some of her sting.
Oh, totally. They completely sidelined her character. She was like, there was just like,
because it was like, oh, don't say you want to marry me. He's like, oh, okay, and then I was like, are they breaking up? Oh no, I guess it's fine. The other thing I found weird was when they have sex that time, that they both still have their clothes on when they do the after shot. I'm like, did they get their clothes on and then go?
That's the thing I have with every sex scene in Hollywood. It's just
at least they put a blanket over them.
So there's that. But always, the woman gets out of bed and she's wearing a bra and her panties or something like that. And then the guy's like clearly naked because like it's just like. It makes sense to me, like that they would both stay naked. Like, what's going on?
Unless the person who gets up doesn't want people looking in to see them naked.
But that's the few movies that I'm like, when the woman gets up and like everything like that and grabs like
the blanket,
to like wrap herself and go to the washroom and then get changed. I'm like, I like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That is great attention to detail. But in that scene, you're right. When they still had their clothes on, and I was like, why? Did the intercourse thing, and they still had the clothes on.
Her name's Marcy Stahl.
Oh, who cares? I just didn't.
No, that's not nice. You gotta care about the characters.
I just didn't really care about that character.
They
just jumped way too much.
I care about it, unfortunately, only as it pertains to Foggy and his development. That's true. She didn't get to be a character in her own right, like Karen Page, but. Because I feel like part of how he's doing with her reflects to his ability. That's their relationship is something that doesn't need to be pinned to how he feels about Matt. So to me, yes, it is an important aspect to have there as you explore. Yeah. Again, that's kind of why I didn't like that he went back to Matt, because you explore this idea that he can be success. It shows that what we were talking about, like he's a great lawyer. He doesn't need Matt around.
No, he doesn't.
So he separates himself from Matt. He's in the 3-piece suits. He's got Marcy, someone he thought was out of his league before. That all speaks to a certain amount of success and confidence that he has.
Oh yeah, he's a vastly different character.
Only to like rip it away and be like, no, now we're friends again, and and I'm like, meh.
Arguably, does that make them friends again? Does it rip his confidence away?
Sorry, it rips his independence. I meant to say independence and not confidence.
Would you say it's independence though, because he's choosing to partner up? So in my mind,
it shows a codependency.
I don't think
I
agree with that.
Okay, sorry. Why wouldn't he just be like, why don't you come to my firm where we can both be successful? Why would he need to be like, I'm leaving this behind and we'll go back to like working out of a dingy office working for chicken? That's what I'm saying. He's going back to Matt on Matt's terms. He's not bringing Matt along with him.
Oh, I see.
To his success.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like that ending because it undoes
a lot of his character development.
Yes.
Never thought about it like that, to be perfectly honest. I just
both of them
buddies again, and I was swept away by that emotion.
Both Karen and Foggy have independence and a level of success
good at it
outside of Matt.
Yeah. Karen was
so for them to like
journalist.
Draw back in and like be this nucleus or like have Matt as this nucleus, it's like, well, okay, I guess so.
I see your point now, and I got to rethink that ending a little bit because I was more like, oh, they're doing a group hug. This is fantastic.
But like to me, like again, I'm not saying this is equal thing, but like remember there's the end of the first American Pie where they're all coupled off, and they're like just looking at each other off on their own things, and you can see that they've grown. they're still friends, they're still connected, but they don't need to be huddled back together.
Correct.
I would,
except for what's his face with Tara Reid. That I don't know that.
No, they all gave their salutes on their own individual things, and yes, he needed to be punished for his ways, and he was alone, but that was the thing. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like an ending more like that represents they're back on friendly terms, but they're not like being drawn back into like Matt's suckhole.
I feel like, okay, so if they rewrote that to make it more like, okay, we're going to continue to do our things, but what we're going to do is Karen Page as an investigative journalist, and then DA
or like if
Foggy
they're all coming from their
feeding,
all
like being like Team Daredevil, and they're feeding him
like if
cases,
they all were coming back from their respective jobs and like feeding Daredevil with the information he needs to go out and fight crime. That's better than.
I 100% agree with that. Like in the short period of time I've had to think about this, yes, I agree. That would have been so much better. Foggy, keep doing your thing. Finance Murdoch or whatever.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, just let them have their success and their wins. Yeah, and because to me, that's not a big win. That like some guy that let them think he was dead for whatever, and then only came to them when he needed stuff.
Yeah, it's quite
abusive.
Like
is friends with them again.
He's quite abusive in this season.
Yeah, like that's not a win
selfish
to me.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fair. Yeah, I get that. I'm on your side with that. I agree. The last character, I was Vanessa's character.
She didn't get enough time, but I also realized that even as I'm reading comics again, she's dead in the comics, so like you never really get to see her. She can't really share screen time or story time with Wilson, so I guess just the last 2 episodes is fine, and splitting them up again. Because I think that's how Kingpin works. It's his desire to be with her, but then getting drawn close to her, realizing, do I really want this? And then getting pushed apart again.
I liked when she called him out on this. Like, I feel like a stranger, and I'm closer to you than ever before. I want to be a part of this world, Wilson, and all this kind of stuff. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yes.
That would have been a very interesting dynamic to explore, but of course that would have been Kingpin would have won, and then Daredevil would have died, and all that kind of stuff. But just the fact that she did that, fleshed out that character a little bit more. I'm like, oh, he corrupted you.
I don't think that's the story they're telling. I think what they're telling is she is just as capable as he is.
Right.
And so the idea is, can they coexist?
Interesting.
He was trying to put her in a position of like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'll take care of you. And she's in a position of like, no, like we should be working together because I can do what you can do. I think that's the story they're telling.
Cool.
I don't think it's he corrupted her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been attracted to him in the first place. I think it's her seeing herself in him seeing himself, and then being like, do I like that?
Do you think we're going to see Kingpin again?
Yeah, obviously. They're not. They didn't kill him, so they're going to use him again.
It'd be interesting to see.
I think it's more, how soon do we see Bullseye again?
I think it's going to be pretty immediate, to be perfectly honest.
I don't know with these shows, man.
Yeah, I just
They've
think
got their own agenda.
There's going to be like 2 or 3 characters. Because like, Bullseye, as great of a character, he's not a tactician. You know, he's just like, more of an assassin kind of person where I'm just going to shoot things. And
there's a level of being a tactician with being an assassin. Yeah. Because he's not just out there sniping for whatever. Like, he has a plan and he needs to be able to follow through
also,
on it.
like, I didn't catch who was doing the surgery for him. So maybe...
Oh, it's this... It's a character, but I don't remember what the character's name is. Hold on.
Okay. So, I mean, because that could be lead up into what Season 4 could have explored. Because I just don't think that Bullseye himself is a good enough character to continue on with this shit.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how soon it'll be before we see him again, because he's not somebody that you need to see again. They've already shown you the ceiling of what he can do.
Yep.
He's not going to get better than that.
Well,
he'll be less prone to having his spine broken, but he's not going to be like better at using paper clips to kill people.
Yeah.
That's pretty much as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, because I mean, like, even when he was a kid and he threw the baseball to kill the coach and like bounced it and redirected.
But that's what I like, that you don't know that at first that's what he's doing. He's figuring out all those angles and how to ricochet stuff when he's throwing up against the wall.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. It was You're right. He reached the pinnacle of what he can do.
Yeah,
like
right
I
away.
can't see like
he didn't like grow into it. He just was good at what he did. But that's what I'm saying. When you were talking about like, do you think he was full bullseye? Yeah, I do, because he was just good at what he's good at, and that he's always been used as a henchman.
He just didn't identify as bullseye or wear the suit or something.
Which
like
is to me again why.
Yeah. Good stuff. I also like the last little bit of parallel that Kingpin did with Foggy's family in the deli, and how he tried to get to Foggy and corrupt him too. Kind of like, I thought that was really, really fun and put Foggy in a very interesting place that we could explore.
When he was like, I guess I can't be the DA because I'm all compromised.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yep. I thought that was really, really cool. Like I said, that episode where we're exploring Karen, her backstory, I thought that was fantastic. That was great. What did you not like about this season?
I think I've said everything I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't really like Charlie Cox's portrayal of Matt Murdock. I don't know that I like Matt Murdock as even in the comics, but like I find him so bland that like when he like it's hard for me to engage with that character and go beyond.
I was captivated by him this season.
Yeah,
but that's because I've been to that.
But this is a subjective thing, right? I'm not saying he's objectively bad or like. Yeah. I'm saying I don't like him as an actor. I find him bland in most things he does, and so like this interpretation of Matt Murdock, which again I'm not like a Matt Murdock aficionado, but like I just think he just seemed different. There was a warmth to him in the in the cartoon with Spider-Man, and other times I've read him that I don't find with him specifically. Again, that idea that Daredevil is something different than Matt Murdock.
Yes.
I think he's got, for me, that Tobey Maguire issue where it's a little too much just the same thing. Whenever
I gotcha.
He's sour when he's Daredevil. He's sour when he's Matt Murdock. It's kind of like, okay. So I don't like that. I don't like the ending because it seems like they're just being like, and everyone's back to normal and we're done. And there's no, I mean, yes, you could keep going, but to keep going, I feel like you have to undo that again, and then you're treading old territory.
Yeah, it's true. You bring a fourth person into the mix.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't like the lack of
Daredevil
costumes.
dog.
Yeah. I don't like the lack of costumes. That's it. I think that's it. And again, the Kingpin thing, I think they do a little too much telling and not enough showing of his that aspect of him, because I think that's a very important that's how you earn that Kingpin name, by being able to manipulate people. And so to have that all happen off screen seems like you're missing the point on that element of his character.
I agree with a lot of that. I personally loved this. I'm loving Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock much, much more.
Yeah, and this is the best season he's had as Matt Murdock.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even talk about Sister Maggie, actually, who I loved. She was great.
Sister Maggie was great. How have we
like
not
right
talked
away?
about that?
Right away, I was like, yeah, Sister Maggie.
Yeah, because like the first...
And then when they go back in time to show you how she was like going to be a nun, but then she's like, ooh, all of that boxing.
This. Like, look at this boxer with
turned
his
on
muscles.
by the bus.
Yeah, and then
they had that.
And they have the intersex.
Yep. Yeah, I liked her a lot in that she pushed him, and she wasn't just like, oh yeah, let me take care of you. She's like, oh yeah, you loser. Like, what? No, it's not like that. But like, I just really liked her vibe right away.
Yeah, she was great. Like, when you were like, oh man, just watch the first episode, Sister Meg. You know, like, okay, just stop biasing me there, and just like watched. I'm like, well, yeah, I see. Like, this is great. I want to explore this dynamic a lot more.
Or like when he wanted to like fight that guy in the church, and she was like, "Yeah, I think we won. I think it's like that was like the first time you were like, oh, she does care." But she's like, "Yeah, I think we did." He's like, "No, I'm going again," and she was like, "Oh, just like his dad doesn't know."
Yeah, it's true. I thought that was Sister Meg was very, very well done character. Yeah, really well done. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I really like the thing with I loved Charlie Cox as Daredevil this season, and I loved what the angle they did, because I've been to that point where I'm like, I've lost so much, I don't care what happens anymore. I'm making completely self-destructive behavior, and then I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh right, there are people that still, okay, I gotta smarten up and fly right now. And so I like this season really spoke to me on multiple levels. But that's a very, very subjective, very esoteric thing.
No, but I think I think this was this is definitely their strongest. I think objectively their strongest season.
I agree.
I obviously like season 2 more because of the costumes and the interplay of. But just like,
but the idea was like split between Daredevil and
Punisher
and Elektra. But in all honesty, Daredevil in season 2 was not really developing. He was just like, I'm just going to do this stuff.
But what I did like,
I have this
but I like the Punisher and Elektra forced him to be reflective. So I disagree that it wasn't developing him because it just made him more fervent in his belief that he's doing the right thing. But the idea that Elektra tempts him and Punisher like confronts him, like, what are you doing with these half measures and why are you like this? So it gave, and because even in this season, he's like, I'm not like Punisher. Like, well, I noticed you went to go see him, but like, I'm not like that guy. He's crazy. And like, so he's been able to define himself against Punisher or whatever, which is good for the character growth or whatever.
Right.
But, and actually one of the few times that I thought he was doing something interesting where like that indignation that he was like, oh, you like lump me in with someone like Punisher, blah. And like that self-righteousness, that plays more into like what I feel like a Matt Murdock character would be, like this holier than thou guy that's like, like that made sense to me and I liked that. But again, I liked second season for actually having him interact with other people who do what he does.
Right.
And have a different way of doing it and forcing him to like really take stock into like what it means for him to do these half measures or if they are half measures. Yeah. And again, this also focused on something really interesting about his loss, like his lack of faith and then coming back to it. So
I thought that was so here for the audience out there, I'm not the most religious person out there. I'm not the most spiritual person, but I find religion as a storytelling medium to be fascinating. I really do. And they did such a good job with this. The motivators and all that kind of stuff. I loved every aspect of the religious tilt and all that kind of stuff. It was great. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I think it's time to
we gotta rate this.
I'm giving this a strong 9.5.
That's not far off for me. I give it an 8.5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think that is an objectively well put together story.
I agree. Just
I can't
put the costume back and you've got yourself a 10, baby.
No, because I'm joking. I still don't. My rating is independent of my feelings about the costume.
Oh, okay.
My rating has to do with the other things I thought went wrong. Right. Because I understand that they gave me a reason why he doesn't have the costume. So I can't really be like, but you gotta put him in the costume because they explained it away, and as you said, it's so important to the story they wanted to tell.
Yes,
that he doesn't have it. So I'm not going to ding it for that. I just think it's a weird choice.
And I get where you're coming from. I really do. Like when you said the Vader thing, that comparison, I was like, okay, I'll give you that.
Anyway,
9.5, 8.5 for Dan. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, please go to thatshelf.com. We'll be on there. If you listen to this soon enough. Yep. If not, you can just go to the tag, whatever. But there's other podcasts there. There's great podcasts. Yep. You don't have to just listen to us, but it would be great if you did. Please rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. I know people like to listen on other things, but it means a lot when you actually interact on Apple Podcasts. Right. Other than that, listen on Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public, Google Play, wherever you want to listen. And if you want to listen to the back catalog of our show, it's on tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. So listen to us. Please follow us on social media, our Instagram, Twitter. We have a TDF Everything Facebook page and the Twitter as well that you can follow, and you can see all of that on thatshelf.com or tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten.
Tell us what you like, tell us what you didn't like, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, and of course if you
if you just want to talk to us, because that's nice too.
Yeah, just say like, hey, what's up?
And exactly. You don't have to agree or disagree. Just reach out.
Agree. All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.